Getting stuck in traffic, it no longer means just enjoying a few minutes of quiet. Your 2022 Buick is now a captive audience chamber where an artificial intelligence aggressively volunteers to summarize your podcasts or maybe even brainstorm your next family holiday.
Corporate press releases from General Motors and Google document this aggressive push into physical spaces. We are matching those announcements against an accidental application leak documented by Android Police and 9 to 5 Google, plus a searing privacy teardown from Ars Technica.
Tracking Google's Gemini rollout from the physical highway straight into your private inbox maps out the specific consequences of artificial intelligence becoming a forced default. The tech industry just made a unilateral decision. You need a conversational partner at all times, whether you ask for one or not.
Retrofitting 4 million General Motors vehicles with Gemini represents the most physical manifestation of this strategy, replacing the legacy Google Assistant in model year 2022 and newer Cadillacs, Chevrolets, Buicks, and GMCs turns a multi-ton piece of machinery into a rolling chatbot.
Changing the underlying architecture of how drivers interact with their vehicles, it forces a different kind of daily routine. The old system relied on rigid, memorized commands.
Semantic understanding drives the new Gemini integration. You tell the car you feel cold. The system interprets that statement, accesses the vehicle's hardware programming interface, and adjusts the defroster automatically.
Translating a vague human complaint just translating that into a mechanical action sounds convenient until you notice more intrusive features. Gemini can summarize incoming text messages and send replies featuring specific cupcake emojis.
Commercial drivers hauling heavy cargo can ask the system to route them to trailer-friendly parking or find the least expensive fuel. The dashboard computer cross-references satellite map data with the physical dimensions of a GMC truck.
Tapping deep into the vehicle's proprietary hardware and digital documentation like that changes everything. Finding trunk height programming instructions previously required digging through a 400-page paper manual. Now, if your garage ceiling is too low, you just ask Gemini to pull those specific instructions straight from the digital owner's manual loaded into the infotainment system.
General Motors claims natural language AI increases safety by eliminating screen interaction. Allowing the driver to control the vehicle through conversational requests supposedly keeps their attention firmly on the road.
Getting into a Chevy Traverse to grab a coffee suddenly turns into a forced brainstorming session about a promotion at work. Google suggests using your drive to rehearse for a meeting and saying, "Hey Google, let's talk." Arguing with a dashboard about the exact definition of upbeat 70s folk rock while navigating a complex interchange functions as a massive safety hazard disguised as a luxury feature.
General Motors mandates an active OnStar service plan and a Google Play Store sign-in just to activate the voice processing. This massive deployment of conversational AI relies entirely on the connected vehicle foundation GM built over the past 30 years.
The level of location tracking and data integration is startling. You can tell the car you are craving barbecue, specify you only want a detour of less than a mile, and the dashboard queries Google Maps for local restaurants before feeding the synthesized answer back to you. The system even includes a beta feature called Gemini Live for free-flowing conversations.
Google's press release suggests asking for fun facts while driving to Lake Tahoe, then interrupting the artificial intelligence mid-sentence to ask about Mark Twain's specific connection to the area. Answering a complex historical question about Mark Twain requires immense computational power. Google routes the audio from your vehicle to a data center, processes the request through a massive language model, and beams the synthesized audio response back to your car.
Multiplying that process by 4 million vehicles asking for detours and historical trivia creates an astronomical cloud computing bill for Google. Processing every single spoken thought through a remote server farm is financially unsustainable. The sheer volume of data moving back and forth between the highway and the server rack costs millions of dollars in bandwidth and electricity.
Shifting the processing power away from the server farms directly into your pocket solves their financial bottleneck. Leaking a specific software package right before the annual Google I/O Developer Conference exposed this hardware strategy.
Google published an app called COSMO on the Play Store and quickly pulled it down. Reporters at Android Police and 9 to 5 Google caught the 1.33 gigabyte download before it vanished. Downloading over a gigabyte of raw data just for an experimental assistant application is staggering. Most utility applications take up 30 or 40 megabytes.
The application package carries the label com.google.research.air.cosmo and features intense local processing tools. A deep research function autonomously processes complicated topics requiring multiple sources using the processor inside the phone.
The leak also exposed a highly invasive conversation summary tool. The software actively transcribes and recaps recent human interactions whenever you change context. Running a massive 1.13 gigabyte local AI that constantly transcribes and summarizes mundane text conversations is like hiring a professional court reporter to follow you through the grocery store. It represents massive overkill that drains your device battery down to zero for almost zero practical benefit.
Transcribing a conversation locally means the audio data never leaves the device. Local execution eliminates the latency of waiting for a cloud server, which provides a technical layer of privacy while simultaneously demanding immense battery power.
Managing that kind of processing load requires a system that knows when to rely on the phone and when to query the server. The software includes a settings page with a fulfillment model menu to do exactly that. It offers a hybrid mode that swaps dynamically between the local Nano app and online servers. Google labels those online servers as PI.
The local model handles simple requests, like drafting a quick text message or setting an alarm. When a user asks a complex question that exceeds the phone's processing capabilities, the system kicks the request out to the heavy PI servers.
That hybrid approach functions perfectly like a hybrid car switching from an electric battery to a gas engine when it hits the highway. The phone handles the small, simple tasks locally using the Gemini Nano model to save Google money and bandwidth. When the computational demand spikes, the system fires up the heavy server connection. The application demands access to everything to make this hybrid system function.
The software requires extensive permissions immediately upon installation. It offers a browser agent to automate web tasks, navigating pages, and clicking links on your behalf.
It includes a quick photo lookup tool designed to find specific images in your gallery so you do not have to interrupt a conversation. The software scans your private photos to find context clues. Google places conversational AI in your car. They test gigabyte-heavy local models on your phone. Once the infrastructure surrounds you on the highway and in your pocket, they systematically close the exits.
Ars Technica reveals how heavily Google penalizes users who reject this integration. Google claims they do not train their foundational generative AI models on private workspace data. They loudly advertise that your personal Gmail messages and Google Drive files remain secure from their web scrapers.
The protection disappears the second you use the tool. If you ask the artificial intelligence to summarize an email chain, the system reads that data. The resulting output snippet becomes prime fodder for their AI training datasets. My private correspondence enters the training data for a global machine learning model simply because I used the mandated interface to read a long message.
Google asserts they scrub personal information from these training datasets using automated filters. They claim algorithms remove names, phone numbers, email addresses, and physical locations before the data trains the next generation of Gemini.
There is no independent method to verify the effectiveness of those filters. Users who want to disable AI training entirely must navigate to a deeply buried settings page called Gemini Apps Activity. Shutting down that data pipeline should be a basic privacy right.
Turning off that tracking immediately triggers a punitive response. Google permanently deletes your entire chat history the moment you disable Gemini Apps Activity. You forfeit access to your past interactions.
Ars Technica consulted Marie Potel from Fair Patterns, a startup that builds AI models to detect predatory design. She categorizes these interfaces as dark patterns. Punishing the user by permanently deleting their history goes directly against user agency. Google is spending a projected $185 billion on AI investment for 2026 alone. Going grocery shopping feels like getting pickpocketed in broad daylight, and the personal cost of Google's massive investment hits your digital life in the exact same way. The penalty for not participating in their billion-dollar data extraction is having your personal inbox flooded with spam because they took away your sorting tabs.
Disabling Gemini within Gmail requires users to turn off a setting labeled Smart Features. Unchecking that single box disables the artificial intelligence while simultaneously breaking legacy tools that predate the AI boom by over a decade.
Disabling the tool kills your primary inbox filtering tabs. It breaks the Smart Compose function. A user goes from having 20 unread priority emails to a chaotic feed of 500 unread messages simply because they wanted to stop an AI from scanning their correspondence. Stripping away the sorting tabs sabotages the user's ability to manage their daily life.
When you disable those smart features, Gmail immediately serves you a pop-up nag screen. The screen offers to re-enable all the features you just lost, which automatically reactivates Gemini.
A toggle switch buried 3 menus deep that intentionally breaks your email layout functions as a trap. The workspace settings contain a second SOA, Smart Features toggle located 1 click deeper, Disabling the secondary switch creates cascading failures across the Google ecosystem. It stops loyalty cards from automatically copying to Google Wallet. It breaks calendar event extraction from your Gmail messages. Flight confirmations and hotel bookings stop appearing on your schedule.
Dr. Harry Brignall coined the term dark pattern in 2010. He describes this specific tactic as the pre-selection dark pattern. Default settings drive behavior. Companies take a feature, make it the pre-selected default, and bury the opt-out mechanism several clicks deep.
They rely on the statistical reality that very few people will ever navigate to that specific settings page. Google assumes most of their billions of users will simply accept the new defaults to avoid the friction of a broken inbox and a malfunctioning calendar. You are navigating an ecosystem built entirely on this pre-selection dark pattern.
The default setting across all these platforms is constant data extraction. Your privacy remains hidden behind vaguely worded warnings and substantially degraded functionality. Google uses this strategy to justify their massive infrastructure investments.
They retrofit millions of vehicles and build gigabyte-heavy local phone applications based on the assumption that users cannot escape the ecosystem. The financial return on their server farms depends entirely on keeping the user trapped inside the conversational loop.
Hiding the privacy toggles behind broken functionality guarantees the data pipeline remains open. The corporation demands your personal information to fuel the next generation of predictive models.
If your car summarizes the podcast you didn't finish, your phone generates the grocery list you didn't write, and your email automatically replies to the message you didn't read, whose life is the AI actually living?